Okay. Come on up and join me.
Want to go first?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Nico Gola, and this year I'm serving as the Interfaith Advocate and a Ricky Scholar in Campus Ministry. Today is Rosh Hashanah, one of the high holy days in Judaism. It began Monday evening and will continue through tomorrow evening. Rosh Hashanah means head of the year, and it marks the beginning of the Jewish New Year. It is a time of deep reflection and self-examination, as well as rejoicing. As we begin our new academic year at PLU, may we join with our Jewish neighbors in a time of reflective mindfulness and joy for the gift of this new beginning today.
I invite you to stand as we begin with prayer. Today, as we gather to begin this new academic year full of expectations and excitement, maybe some anxiety and curiosity, let us honor this sacred moment. I invite you to join me in this spirit of prayer. God of wisdom, we give you thanks for the gift of our minds and the opportunity for learning and growth. Many people beyond this room have worked to make it possible for us to be here, and we give thanks for their commitment to education. We ask that grace would fall upon teachers, students, staff, and all who learn and serve at PLU. May PLU be a dynamic place for excellent education, new discovery, bold questions, and creative exploration. Give teachers and learners the skill, confidence, humility, wonder, and grace to expand minds and hearts in service of our communities and the earth. Keep us focused and energized, imaginative and kind, especially when we're feeling stressed or living in uncertainty. Grant us humility and compassion when we disagree or when challenges seem too great. Keep us safe and push us to be brave, that engaging with new thoughts and new people, we might experience authentic community and participate in transformation. With gratitude and hope we pray. Amen.
Welcome to the 2021-2022 academic year at Pacific Lutheran University. I am Dr. Joanna Gregson. Yeah, let's have a moment for that. I am Dr. Joanna Gregson, Provost and the MC for today's Convocation ceremony. Before we begin the program, I ask that we take a moment to remember that we are on the traditional lands of the Nisqually, Puyallup, Squaxin Island, and Steilacoom peoples, and that we acknowledge and respect the traditional caretakers of this land. On this opening day, it is a special joy to welcome for the first time all of you who are new to our community, including new members of the faculty and staff, and those of you who are joining us this fall as first-year, transfer, and graduate students, and to say welcome home to our returning students, faculty, and staff. Seated around you are fellow students, faculty, staff, alumni, and community members who today start a new year together with you and who pledge commitment to your success here. Of course, this year's ritual marks not only the beginning of an academic year, it also marks, for so many of us, a return to learning, living, and working in community. Convocation is a calling together of this PLU community, a formal gathering of members of the university community that is designed to welcome students to university life. It is a rite of passage, inviting you to subscribe to the mission and common values of this place: thoughtful inquiry, service, leadership, and care for other people, for their communities, and for the earth. The values that have shaped this university are vitally present at PLU today. I hope you will reflect on these values in the months ahead and incorporate their principles into your learning and into your actions. This day is the start of your academic career at PLU, the first bookend in your journey. The other bookend is, of course, commencement, when you will once again march through a line of applauding faculty on your way to walking across the stage and receiving your degree. The time between the two bookends is your story to write, your PLU experience. As you write your story, know that we look forward to getting to know each of you and your aspirations, to teaching you and to learning with you. I'd like to take a brief moment to introduce the people joining me on the stage today. I ask each of my colleagues to raise their hand as I read their names, beginning with Mr. Alan Belton, President of the University. Ms. Naomi Atnafu, ASPLU Vice President. Dr. Suzanne Crawford O'Brien, Professor of Religion and Interim Dean of Interdisciplinary Programs. Mr. Nico Gala, Interfaith Advocate and Campus Ministry Student Leader. Dr. Mike Halverson, University Marshal and Professor of History. Mr. Daniel Lee, Vice President for University Relations. Ms. Kia Miller, Campus Ministry Student Leader. And the Reverend Jen Rood, University Pastor. I would also like to acknowledge and recognize the presence of several groups who are here this morning. These groups include the Associated Students of PLU, members of our athletic teams, the Lute Guides, who have worked so diligently this past weekend to welcome our new students, and the leadership of the Residence Hall Association and the University Congregation. Thank you for your continued leadership contributions to PLU. It is now my pleasure to welcome your ASPLU Vice President, Ms. Naomi Atnafu, who brings greetings on behalf of student government. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Atnafu.
Hello, everyone. My name is Naomi Atnafu, and I am the Vice President of the Associated Students of Pacific Lutheran University. In preparation for this speech, I was bombarded with thoughts on how to best navigate the collection of words to get you all ready and pumped for this new school year. But I found myself reminded of me a mere 2 years ago, sitting awkwardly in the second to last row, with some friends I had literally made on my walk up here, one being my partner, Cece Chan. And although nothing seemed as nerve-wracking as starting my college career, becoming a leader came naturally at this university because I found myself in spaces where I was constantly challenged and encouraged and inspired to be better than I was yesterday. Whether it was in my residence halls or in the clubs that I joined, I realized there was always an opportunity to improve yourself at PLU with the supportive community I found myself here on campus. Early on, I realized that becoming a Loot is much more than holding doors for people miles away, which is something you will learn to catch on to very quickly here. But it is a commitment to following truth and growth, wherever that might lead you. Here, you will be asked questions that challenge you to go against the status quo. You will be asked to leave your comfort zone and indulge in the fullness of open dialogue alongside your peers. You will be welcomed by the faculty and staff that are more than excited to have you here. Here, as student leaders, we are looking forward to having your refreshing perspectives in important conversations and navigating this new normal alongside with us. PLU honors that this is a place dedicated to ideas and knowledge, and that translates to much more than what happens in the classroom. And this is exactly why you'll find yourself finding meaning and belonging in many different places here on campus. For some of you, the walls of admin will hold the building blocks of knowledge, while for others, Riki will be the hub for modeling what thoughtful scientific inquiry looks like. And the AUC will be home for advocacy, laughter, and community. Within these spaces and many more intentional places here on campus, I urge you all to make this place home for you. We have all endured an unthinkable year, and through all that has happened, you all have made it here to embark on one of the most exciting, eye-opening, and prestigious journeys of your lives. Against all odds, you are all sitting here with me today, and that by itself is something definitely worth celebrating. So if I can get all of you to give yourselves a round of applause. You all made it, we all made it, and here at PLU, we cannot wait to continue celebrating you all throughout this journey. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you to the Loot family. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naomi. It is now my pleasure to welcome Vice President for University Relations, Dan Lee.
Good morning. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Good morning. Good morning, Loots. I want you to repeat after me. I am a Loot. I am a Loot. What's a Loot? I'm a Loot. Exactly. That's an answer you need to practice because people are going to be asking you now for the rest of your life. What's a Loot? I'm a Loot. One more time. Let's practice again. Ready? What's a Loot? Thank you so much. Okay. I've got a couple jobs up here. One was to introduce you to the concept that you are now a Loot. No matter if you spend 1 month here, 1 year here, 4 years, some of you taking 7 years here. I hope not. That was a joke. That's a joke. You should not take 7 years here. Unless you're also getting a master's degree, then maybe. And a doctorate. All right, so that's a question you're going to have to answer now for the rest of your life. What's a Loot? I'm a Loot. Today is about welcoming you into this larger Loot family and about beginning to have a conversation about the characteristics, the qualities that make us Loots together. It's not about just attending a place or getting a name on the name tag or a name on a diploma. It's about our shared experiences. And one of the shared values that I want to talk about today is the value of gratitude. You today are joining a community of some 40,000 alumni around the globe, tens of thousands of friends here in the Puget Sound and around the globe, a community of faculty and staff, all of whom are guided by and united by a common purpose. That is to make this world better than we found it, to make it a more compassionate and caring world, a world that integrates thoughtful inquiry, service, leadership, and care into challenging and questioning and moving past some of the world's toughest challenges and questions. You're part of this family now, and I'm here on behalf of those alumni to say that they stand with you. Our office partners with students and faculty to ensure that during your time here, you have a mentor, both a faculty mentor, but also an alumni mentor, that you have friends connecting you to residencies and internships, that you have alums and friends helping you as you graduate from this place and move on to that first and second and third job. And the common thing uniting all of those things together is this common calling that we share, a common desire to make the world a better place, to make it better than we found it. The value of gratitude is the one I'm focusing on today. And are any of you fans of A.A. Milne, the writer of Winnie the Pooh? Back in the day, it was a more popular thing to reference. I understand that A.A. Milne is perhaps not on the tip of your tongue, but you have heard of Winnie the Pooh, perhaps, yes? Anybody? And Winnie the Pooh's friend, Piglet? Yeah, Piglet's one of my favorite characters in Winnie the Pooh, maybe other than Eeyore, because I have kind of an Eeyore sort of way of looking at the world. But anyway, Piglet found that even though he had a very small heart, it could hold an amazing amount of gratitude. Gratitude is one of those values, it's an intentional claiming that forces us to pause and to reflect upon where we are at a given moment and to turn ourselves from inward to outward. Gratitude causes us to question, who around me has helped me in this moment? Who besides myself is responsible for the fact that I am sitting on a chair in the middle of an auditorium of my peers, preparing for my first day of class at PLU? Gratitude causes us to turn from inward to outward, to bloom, as it were, in this world, and to think about the names and faces of the people that make our everyday existence possible, the people that make your food, the people that teach your classes, the friends that welcome you back to your room after you've had a terrible day, and you're wondering at this place, what did I do signing up for this college experience? Now, this is a pretty formal celebration, and so we're not supposed to do this, but I'm kind of breaking the rules. If you happen to have a phone, I'd like you to pull it out right now, please. If you don't have a phone, that's okay. I want you to participate in this activity regardless. Hold your phone in one hand, and before you do anything, we're going to take a moment, just 15 seconds or so, and I want you to think about one person who has made today possible for you. It could have been the person who made you breakfast this morning. It could have been that teacher who challenged you to do your homework even when you didn't want to apply for that college even when it was a stretch, to go after that scholarship even though you thought you didn't qualify. It could be that coach that pushed you beyond the limits you thought you had for yourself. It could be that parent at home who has loved you unconditionally all of these years and who is so incredibly proud of you today. Think about that one person. Doesn't have to be the only person, just one person. And then I'd like you to take a selfie, and I'd like you to send it to that person. And I want you to say thank you. So let's take some time to do that now. If you don't have a phone, just think about that person. Or grab the person next to you, make a friend. If a person next to you has a phone, you don't have a phone, it's a good time to make a friend. Say, hey friend, let's send a selfie together. Who are you thankful for today? Now, I expect your generation to be much faster at this. So are we done here? Did we get it? Did you already do it? There's going to be some moms right now, like crying at home, just so you know. I love you, Mom. As Lutz, we ground ourselves in great gratitude for the wonder of this world and the amazing giftedness of each of you in this room, and in the possibilities of what we can do in community and in this place and as we leave this place. Lutes are grounded in gratitude. What's a lute? What's a lute? Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Lee. Our Convocation speaker today is Dr. Suzanne Crawford O'Brien. Dr. Suzanne Crawford O'Brien holds a bachelor's degree in history and religion studies from Willamette University and a master's degree in history and critical theories of religion from Vanderbilt University. She earned her doctoral degree in religious studies from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and joined the PLU faculty in 2003. She is a gifted teacher and administrator and is here today to represent the academic division on this, the opening day of our academic year. Please help me welcome Dr. Crawford O'Brien to the podium.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Can you all join me just taking one deep breath? Because I'm a little nervous. Let's just take a breath. Okay, we're here. And we're in this place. And that in itself is miracle enough, I gotta agree. Do I have my picture? I've got some images, which I hope there they are. Good. So good morning. When I was asked to give this short talk today, the first thing I thought about was this image that's on the screen up there. This is called Wisdom of the Universe, and it's by Indigenous Métis artist Christy Belcourt, who lives in Ontario, Canada. The painting, it's one of the coolest things. You should go online and look at it so you can look at it up close. It's made of thousands of tiny dots of paint, and it's intended to replicate the look of Métis beadwork. And it represents how the many combine to form one whole. All those tiny molecules that together make up life, the universe, and everything. When the image joined the collection at the Art Gallery of Ontario, Ms. Belcourt had this to say about it, and forgive me, this is going to be kind of a long quote, but I want to bring her words into the room. So, quote, "In Ontario, over 200 species of plants and animals are listed as threatened, endangered, or extinct." And she goes on to talk about how she's included a lot of those plants and animals in this work. Globally, we live in a time of great upheaval. The state of the world is in crisis. We're witness to the unbearable suffering of species, including humans. Much of this we do to ourselves. It is possible for the planet to return to a state of well-being, but it requires a radical change in our thinking. It requires a willingness to be open to the idea that perhaps human beings have got it all wrong. All species, the lands, the waters, are one beating organism that pulses like a heart. We are all a part of the whole. The animals and plants, lands and waters are our relatives, each with as much right to exist as we have. When we see ourselves as separate from each other and think of other species, the waters, and the planet itself as objects that can be owned, dominated, or subjugated, we lose connection with our humanity, and we create unbalance on the earth. That's what we're witnessing all around us. The planet already contains all the wisdom of the universe, as do you and I. It has the ability to recover built into its DNA, and we have the ability to change what we are doing so this can happen. End quote. So Belcourt's words here remind me of another Indigenous author who I absolutely love, Umik Richard Atleo, who's hereditary chief of the Ohusut First Nation on Vancouver Island. He's a philosopher and a professor at the University of British Columbia. In his book, Principles of Tsawak, an Indigenous Approach to a Global Crisis, Atleo says this. He says, "Since reality is a unity, what befalls one part of this unity must befall the whole. Indigenous worldviews see the global crisis in relational terms, in terms of a creation filled with mutually interdependent life forms that require mutually acceptable protocols in order to maintain balance and harmony. From this point of view, the global crisis is one of relational disharmony." So Belcourt and Atleo are both calling for a radically relational way of seeing the world. This isn't a new idea. In fact, it's a really old one. It's the idea that creation is an interconnected whole, not a series of separate, discrete entities. There's no you that exists apart from the relationships that make us who we are. There's no separating me from the air, water, and soil that sustain all living things on this precious, precious earth. What Belcourt, Atleo, and a whole bunch of philosophers and spiritual teachers throughout human history keep telling us in one way or another, at one time or another, is that forgetting we're all relatives gets us very quickly into really serious trouble. Now, I wanted to share these perspectives with you today because the troubles we're facing are huge. They're terrifying. They're downright overwhelming. I wrote this talk under smoky skies the same week the Intergovernmental Climate Report was released, and it wasn't a very hopeful day. I was reminded that morning that during times of scarcity and crisis, we're all inclined to retreat into our bunkers. And after this year, I think we're all really familiar with what it feels like to retreat into our bunkers. But if we take seriously the notion that we live in an interconnected ecology, whether we're talking about local ecologies like PLU, regional ecologies like Cascadia, or global ecological systems, then it's clear that we've got to resist that bunker mentality. If nothing else, global crises, like the climate change or pandemic disease, should wake us up to the fact that we're all in this together. We need to pay attention to the relationships within which we exist and upon which we depend. If we challenge ourselves to get out of the bunker and instead see how we fit within the web of relations, to look for ways we can reweave those threads that have been torn, to repair those relationships, then there's real reason for hope. Now, my perspective on all this is shaped by my location. I'm a fourth-generation colonial settler to the Pacific Northwest. I'm a mother who really wants to see her child live a full and healthy life. I'm a professor of religion, and I'm a professor of Native American Studies. And beginning this year, I'm interim dean of interdisciplinary programs. So a little bit about interdisciplinary programs. The more I thought about this new gig, right, trying to direct these interdisciplinary programs, the more I started to realize that what I love about it is that interdisciplinary studies is fundamentally relational. It's about making connections, building bridges, discovering alliances. So interdisciplinary studies, it happens when you have multiple disciplines, and disciplines are like academic ways of thinking. So sociology is a discipline, right? Historical methods is a discipline. Biology is a discipline. When you bring those together, and you analyze them, you synthesize them, and you harmonize them to get a more complete picture. So in contrast to what's sometimes called multidisciplinary approach, in multidisciplinary studies, the disciplines all stay separate, but in interdisciplinary studies, you really integrate them. And it's in the relationship between those disciplines, that's where the magic happens, where we find these new ways of thinking, new ways of understanding a broader whole. And at PLU, we have a number of interdisciplinary studies, and majors and minors. So this includes environmental studies, global studies, gender, sexuality, and race studies, Holocaust and genocide studies, Chinese studies, innovation studies, publishing and printing arts, STEM education, and Native American and Indigenous studies. So what these different programs all have in common is that they're places where students are challenged to integrate different disciplines to solve pressing problems and better understand the interconnected nature of the world that we live in. And despite being a pretty anxious person, I can't help but feel hopeful when I think about our graduates, each of whom were able to take up the incredible resources offered all across our campus and integrate them into their own unique take on what they were passionate about. They were able to put that radical relationality into practice. One recent graduate integrated her work in global studies with her passion for the natural sciences. And after serving in the Peace Corps and then completing an AmeriCorps Rural Health Fellowship on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota, she's this month beginning her first year of medical school, committed to working with rural and indigenous communities. Another graduate combined her passion for environmental justice with the visual arts. Another integrated work in business with gender, sexuality, and race studies to think about how we can change the way we do philanthropic giving. And another student designed her own major, integrating work from all across campus: history, business, social work, education, religion, anthropology, indigenous studies, linguistics. And now she's working to transform education back home in her tribal community. So I'm standing here because I sincerely want to welcome each one of you to PLU, to this very special place. And I also want to challenge you to start thinking about this interconnected family tree in which you live. I hope you come to see that PLU is an ecosystem where each part matters. As you begin your classes, I hope you keep an eye out for those threads that weave your courses together. You'll be surprised at the connections you can make. You might think, biology doesn't have anything to do with art and design. Oh, yes, it does. Just wait and see. And I want to challenge you to think beyond what we sometimes call the loot dome. And remember that PLU is just one part of our regional community, and I hope you join us in mending and weaving relationships between our campus community and the broader Parkland, Tacoma, and Puget Sound communities. So we talk a lot about vocation here, and if you haven't heard that word yet, you're going to hear it a lot, I hope. The goal of Lutheran higher education in many ways is to help you find your calling. And one good definition I've heard for this idea of vocation or calling, what is your calling? It's where your great joy meets the world's great need. Where your great joy meets the world's great need. And when I look at Belcourt's painting, I get a sense of that joy, the joy of every created thing living into its calling, supporting the whole, being what it was meant to be. As Belcourt and Atleo said, we need radically relational ways of thinking. We've got to give up on the idea of rugged individualism and instead relearn what it means to be a relative, to dwell in a cosmos that looks a lot less like an elimination bracket and a lot more like a family tree. And maybe this sounds like naive idealism, but I guess I'd argue that if there's a place to be idealistic and hopeful, it's right here. It's right now. Because today, at this very minute, this is a new beginning. You are all about to embark on a transformational journey. And all of us, faculty and staff, we're here to support you in that journey. So welcome to the family.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford O'Brien. Please join me in another round of applause in appreciation of all of our speakers this morning. As our ceremony moves toward closing, not closing yet, moving towards closing, I have 3 announcements. First, I want to thank those who planned and participated in this event. Speakers, sound technicians, stage services, student involvement and leadership, conferences and events, and our volunteers from across campus. Second, when we have concluded, please remain seated for the recessional. And finally, a reminder that classes begin today at noon. It is now my honor to invite President Belton to the lectern to declare the formal opening of the academic year.
I promise this is the shortest speech I give all year. Martin Luther said, "When schools flourish, all things flourish." On behalf of the Board of Regents, the faculty, the staff, and students of Pacific Lutheran University, I hereby declare that the 2021-2022 academic year, the 132nd year of this university, is now in session. Pastor Rude and Ms. Kia Miller will now conclude today's ceremony with a send blessing as we begin the new academic year.
As we conclude this ceremony today, receive this blessing.
May the rituals shared today connect you with those who have gone before, those around you now, and those yet to arrive, to give you perspective and a place to belong.
May the words of affirmation and care that have been spoken today echo in your mind when doubt or fear creeps in.
May those who helped you arrive in this moment here today continue to nourish and sustain you.
May the community of PLU be a source of inspiration and creativity, where your passion finds purpose.
May the God who dwells within and among us continue to kindle in you imagination, creativity, compassion, and justice.
May the call of your life enrich our world and deepen your commitment to its flourishing.
And always may you dwell in peace, be held in love, and be sustained by grace. Amen.